Researching this video, I came across a self-proclaimed expert on the internet who's declared that all photos of a swimming pool at Grand Canyon are AI fakes. He said there's never been a pool at Grand Canyon. I guess he's partially right. There's never been a pool at Grand Canyon. There have been two, one of which was right on the rim of the canyon. The first is the better known of the two, but the second is almost unknown because of a dark element of its history, which may explain why some would rather forget about it. We'll cover that later. The first is the pool built at Phantom Ranch by the Civilian Conservation Corps, which completed the pool in 1934. A 20-man crew excavated the pool, and it operated until 1972. Noteworthy in this photo is the abundance of rocks. Designers like Mary Coulter are praised for their use of natural materials in buildings like the Phantom Ranch cabins, but it makes sense. The lumber had to be carried down by mule, but the rocks were everywhere on the building site. Natural materials are an efficient and logical choice in an environment like this, not necessarily innovative. With summer temperatures well over 100 degrees F or 38 degrees C, the pool would be a real asset. Initially, stream-fed with a waterfall, health requirements led to a more traditional look to the pool in the 1960s. Phantom Ranch was once the province of the rich and famous, and with current room rates, it's heading that way again. But they took a number of photos of that famous swimming pool. However, increasingly strict health requirements from the county health department made it impractical to continue to operate the pool. They were demanding things like chlorination and filtration, no longer the simple stream-fed pool the CCC built. There's a history of tensions between the county and the national park. For example, the county controlled access to Bright Angel Trail after the park was formed and charged $1 to use it. The Park Service tired of trying to buy Bright Angel Trail and eventually built South Kaibab Trail in 1925 to get around the county control of Bright Angel Trail. Finally, in 1928, the Park Service purchased control of Bright Angel Trail. In 1972, the pool was filled, and all that remains are the memories and a shallow depression in front of the cabins where the pool was filled with refuse and dirt. The CCC was a work program for unemployed youth in the Great Depression. Although they built the Trans-Canyon phone line, they weren't allowed to use it. It was reserved for the rich guests at Phantom Ranch. But they were allowed to use the pool they built, and CCC members who used it regularly are the people who seem to miss the now-filled pool at Phantom Ranch the most. The second pool is much less well known, perhaps because of its somewhat less than illustrious history and location. I first came across this pool in a video about growing up at Grand Canyon, which was posted by the National Park Service. It features some of the Verkamps family, who ran a private curio shop on the rim that is now a National Park Service Visitor Center satellite. The short and blurry video clip puzzled me, as I'd never heard of a swimming pool on the rim. At first, I imagined it was on the Verkamps property, but the background was wrong for that location. It turns out that pool was at the Grand Canyon Inn, also called the Kachina Lodge, located on then private land near the Powell Memorial on the rim of Grand Canyon. The Kachina Lodge was located on a private 20-acre section of land that was initially developed as a gold and copper mine. Since both the founders were orphans, they named it the Orphan Mine. It turned out tourism was preliminarily a better business than mining, so initially a trading post was built that later grew into cabins, a restaurant, and eventually included a swimming pool. It was apparently a pretty freewheeling place, inviting informal dress, catering to locals and tourists, with a restaurant and a bar with outdoor dancing. There were various operators of the Kachina Lodge, including the Barrington family, who bought the business in 1950 and upgraded the property. The pool was dug by their child, Jim Barrington, age 12, and a Native American employee, and was finished sometime in the early 1950s. Here's a photo of the young Jim Barrington at the Grand Canyon School. I wondered about where they got the water for the pool and the lodge. A 2013 article from Arizona Highways magazine, using information from the Barrington children, clarifies that it was from rainwater and snow cisterns, supplemented by purchases of water from the railroad that carried it into Grand Canyon. The Barringtons sold their interest in 1953 to an owner who renamed it the Grand Canyon Inn, and he, in turn, sold the business, which included the mining rights, to a mining company. Only a few photos remain of the pool, including the clip of the Verkamp's family swimming, and this photo of one of the Verkamp's children in 1955. Now, here is the shocking aspect of the pool and the Grand Canyon Inn. It was located right next to what eventually became one of the richest uranium mines in the United States. In 1951, radioactivity was discovered at the Orphan Mine, and mining operations were converted to uranium. It became one of the richest and most productive uranium mines in the U.S. The Grand Canyon Inn continued to operate contemporaneously with the uranium mine, outdoor pool and outdoor dancing and all. In fact, the gift shop at the inn even sold uranium samples. Now, I'm from the generation that rode in cars that weren't even equipped with seatbelts, and we drank from the garden hose. But even I'm surprised that a business with outdoor dancing and outdoor swimming operated contemporaneously with a uranium mine. In fact, there are accounts that hotel guests tipped the miners for unauthorized rides down the mining bucket into the canyon. Those are the same buckets used for bringing uranium to the rim, where it was then loaded into uncovered trucks that drove through the village and down the roads frequented by the tourists. By 1961, the mine had excavated most of the ore on the private land and wished to follow the vein into the national park land. The park opposed this. Although the Grand Canyon Inn had been a losing proposition for a number of operators, the mining company, which now owned and operated the inn, used a proposal for a hideous hotel overlapping the edge of the canyon as an incentive to allow it to extend its mining operations into the park. The strategy worked, and a compromise was reached. The mining company extended operations into the national park, but agreed that the mine would pass to the Park Service in 25 years. Eventually, it took an act of Congress and a presidential signature to resolve the issue. In 1962, President Kennedy signed a law that mining operations would cease by 1987, and the Grand Canyon Inn would close in 1966. The economics of uranium production shifted, and the mining company filed bankruptcy in 1967, and the mine closed for good in 1969. Eventually, the Park Service took title to the property, and they removed the mine head frame in 2009. Instead of maintaining the historic structures, they wiped it clean. The area is closed to visitation now due to potential radioactive contamination, but you can still view the location of the Grand Canyon Inn and the Orphan Mine from Powell Point. With the Park Service's focus on conservation, I don't think they were any too pleased that uranium was actively mined within the Grand Canyon National Park's borders. Perhaps it's the illustrious nature of the operation of the Grand Canyon Inn right next to the orphan mine that leads to its history and the history of the swimming pool on the rim of the canyon to be willfully ignored and forgotten. The details are sketchy and the photos are blurry, but a forgotten swimming pool operated on the rim of Grand Canyon, and it's that swimming pool, more than the outdoor dancing and the uranium mine, that people seem to remember the most today. Thank you for watching.